PlayStation are bringing us yet another PS4 remaster, Battlefield is going back to basics, and GT Online for the Steam Deck has been killed. Welcome back to 128KB News. This is your quick bit of gaming news where we catch up on the week of gaming in this short news-like video. And you're correct, I've said it enough now that it's become a catchphrase. Hurrah! And now the dust has settled on the week that was the PS5 Pro announcement, and universally, we've all accepted that £700 for a PlayStation is too much. And yet, I find myself weirdly wanting to buy one, and all it took was for them to show some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth footage, and I'm suddenly filled with gas. The gear acquisition syndrome, not the other thing. But let's jump into the first story, and we have seen the Shattered Space DLC for Starfield. The first deep dive has been shown by Bethesda in a 9-minute presentation on YouTube, and we get to see really what this DLC is all about. It is, of course, the long-awaited expansion to Starfield, a paid DLC that's dropping on September the 30th. But interestingly, it sees Bethesda shrinking the scope of the game down to a single-player, highly crafted experience. And quite interestingly, it's more of a kind of horror experience. We won't be going off-planet at all for this. This is purely on one planet, focusing on one story. And in my experiences of Starfield, which was quite extensive, close to 200 hours, this is where Starfield really shined in a game. It's when you had these smaller, really well-crafted experiences, and also when the game started to lean towards the horror side of things, Starfield really shone for me. There was a few missions that really stick in mind that kind of lent towards that more horror side of things that were really the standout moments of the game. So to see this DLC really focusing in on this part of Starfield's story, that's really exciting to me. It should be really good, and it seems like this entire DLC is just on that. It is a paid DLC. I think it's between £20 and £30, so it's kind of questionable if it's going to be worth that, but we're looking at about 20 hours of gameplay, so it's quite a lot for your money. It's basically a full game added on, so it probably is worth it. I will jump in at some point. I don't think I'm going to be jumping in day one, though. And talking of paid DLCs, we see that Diablo 4 has generated over $1 billion in revenue since its launch. Now that is a staggering figure. This news came via LinkedIn, interestingly enough, and it was confirmed by the senior product manager of LinkedIn, so saying that the game, since its launch, has generated $1 billion in revenue, gross revenue, of course. More interesting with this is that 150 million of this has come from in-game transactions, so kind of microtransactions inside Diablo 4. It's fantastic to see because Diablo 4 is an amazing game, so it's great to see it doing so well. Of course, that number is bound to increase in the coming weeks as we see the Vessel of Hatred DLC, a paid DLC, coming literally in a couple of weeks. So that $1 billion of revenue is bound to increase further. And they've also announced that this is going to be part of a yearly cycle of expansions to that game whilst they keep Diablo 4 alive. Fantastic to see a great game doing so well. And from keeping great games alive with added DLC content, we move on to keeping great games alive just by re-releasing this. And that is, of course, what PlayStation do best with yet another remaster of a PS4 game. And yes, I am, of course, talking about Horizon Zero Dawn. We are seeing yet another re-release of this game. Of course, Horizon Zero Dawn was one of the poster childs for the PlayStation, and yes, it's set for another update, a full remastered version of Horizon Zero Dawn. It's been given its rating for PlayStation and PC. Now, this game obviously originally launched in 2017 on the PS4, and in 2021 we saw an upgraded version of the game for PS5, giving us a choice between a 4K mode or a 60 FPS mode. So it's already been kind of upscaled for PlayStation 5. Obviously, what's happening here is in line with the PS5 Pro launch, which will obviously take full advantage of the PS5 Pro hardware. It's an already great looking game. I'm sure it will look marginally better on the PS5 Pro, but they've got to ask the question, do we really need yet another PS4 remaster when really what we all want are more new PlayStation 5 games? At the recent EA Investor Day, it wasn't just full of boring spreadsheets and charts about money. We saw some glimpses of what's coming out from EA in the future, and they gave us some sneak peeks about the next edition of Battlefield and what their plans are for this game. and it's got me pretty excited. I am a pretty big Battlefield fan, especially the early editions where we had a more modern twist on kind of all-out warfare, 64-player maps. It was my kind of shooter over Call of Duty. In recent years, they've kind of lost their way slightly, and in the most recent Battlefield, they started introducing 128-player maps and different kind of specialist classes and stuff. It felt to me like they had lost their way, but rejoice, because Battlefield is going back to what it does best. We've seen confirmation that the game will be set in a current time frame rather than a future warfare or a World War I experience, and importantly, a return to a more focused 64-player map and departure from those 128-player lobbies, which, let's face it, weren't very good. Vince Zampella from EA said, the 128-player, did it make it more fun? Like, doing the number for number's sake doesn't make any sense. We're testing everything and finding out what's the most fun. The maps, once they get to a certain scale, become different. It's a different play space, and I think you have to design it around that. So we're designing something that's more akin to the previous Battlefields. I'd rather have a nice, dense, really nice, well-designed game space. Some of them are really good, and I can't wait for you to see them all. There was also mention, and this has got me a little bit worried, of a surprise game mode. And let's face it, we all know what that's going to be. It's going to be yet another battle royale. I hope it's not. I hope it's a genuine surprise, but that seems to be the only thing missing from the Battlefield stable in order for them to compete with all the other shooters on the market. They did also mention the removal of specialists and going back to just the class system in the game, which is great to see. So basically everything about the new Battlefield is going back to the basics, back to what Battlefield did best. And I, for one, I'm really excited for that. And that moves us on to the final story of the week, and that is about GTA Online finally getting anti-cheat for PC players installed, which for you PC players is obviously a huge deal because GTA Online is riddled with cheating. But the unfortunate consequence of them doing this is obviously for Steam Deck players. It's a problem with any Steam Deck game and the anti-cheat software being there, and it's really hit them hard. So Rockstar's recent update to GTA 5 Online has rendered the game completely unplayable on Steam Deck. Rockstar have implemented the BattleEye anti-cheat, which is obviously supported on PC and is welcome to anyone who does play GTA Online. And BattleEye does support Proton compatibility, which works fine for many games on deck. But sadly, GTA Online isn't one of them. And we've had confirmation from this from Rockstar. They've reached out in response to users asking why it's not working on Steam Deck anymore, and they have simply said that it will not work and they have no plans to support Linux going forward. So quite simply, it looks like they have just canned the Steam Deck compatibility entirely for GTA Online. You will still be able to play the single-player GTA 5, but I think most people are playing GTA 5 online now that are using GTA. There's no word if they're going to issue any refunds at all for any players. I can't imagine you'd get it through Steam anymore if you've put in more than 2 hours. It would be up to Epic to do the right thing, and I just don't think it's in Epic's interest to do it. They're not likely to do it. So if you're a Steam Deck player and you've not updated GTA Online yet, next time you do, it's game over, I'm afraid. So I'd love to know what you guys think about that down in the comments below. And whilst you're down there digging around, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, because it really does help us out. And before you consider disappearing off to your next video, why not make it one from us at 128KB? We're a lovely bunch and we love you being here. Maybe this one, which is probably about Andy talking about the Ally X. It's great fun. So until the next time, I guess I'll just see you then. Bye. I'm in a room on my own, staring at the camera on my own. It's just me in the room. One day Andy will let me go.